whichever side left. Now that we're doing things on Zoom for a while, we're in the amidst these COVID times. I feel like Dickens, these great times. We're in time when we are not together, but we're together in heart. I have Harry Neuman. Now, many of you haven't heard of Harry Neuman unless you were watching our show. Is that 6.5 years ago, Harry? Is that right?
6.5 years, absolutely. January of 14.
Wow. 2014, even that sounds so foreign to me. Born in 1951, I'm like, we hit the 2000s already? Now we're way past. Harry, what do you do? What's your work profession, would you say?
Well, I am a retired grief counselor for 30 plus years.
Grief counselor.
A grief counselor at a hospital, in a private practice. And at the same time, I've been involved in my hospital's hospice program, the at-home hospice part. So at the moment, we have about 200 folks on our service. Wow. Only 20 of them are in the hospital for those folks that can't be managed at home, and another 180 people that are in the community, which is where I come in. I visit families one-on-one, and I'm with them from the time they begin the hospice experience until the passing of that person, and then stick around to be with the family in whatever ways are needed. So my work is in hospice, my work is in bereavement. And in 2017, I came to Maui to be part of the first international death doula training with Bodhi B. And that was an experience of a lifetime, which I'm very grateful for. And I've been doing this work now. After sitting at the bedside for thousands of hours, I'm now a certified death doula person.
Wow. Oh, for our audience that may not understand that, what is a doula?
Well, doula actually is a Greek word, and believe it or not, it means woman of service. But truly, doulas are midwives. So we have midwives at the beginning of life, and now we've been certifying people to be with folks at the end of their lives, before and after and during the end. And again, for me, it's a very sacred place to be. It's an honor to be with these families. And the sad piece for me right now is that as a non-medical person, the facilities that I've been visiting for 30 plus years, I'm not allowed in. So I'm on the phone with folks and trying to socialize with them and let them know that they're loved, they're cared for, and any issues that they may have, I'd love to hear about. So maybe I can help them on the phone and let them know that they're not alone.
So this is any kind of end-of-life experience that's in hospice. Are you dealing with people that are in COVID at all, or just because COVID's here, you can't go into a hospital?
Well, the folks that are in COVID are probably the ones that are in the hospital, certainly with heavy-duty cases. But I'm not in any of the homes right now. And the beauty of what I've been doing for 32 years is I'm with one family at a time. So if I was a chaplain or I was a social worker or I was a nurse, I would have a caseload. And I'd be a paid employee, and I'd have 25 or 30 or 35 clients that I need to see every week. The time that I spend with families is usually a couple of hours. This one family that the last family I worked with I spent 29 Mondays with my client, which is a world's record, assuming that, we've got 6 months or less as the marker for hospice. Yeah. And each of those visits that I made, those 29 Mondays, were 180 minutes long. So that was a lot of time to spend with one person. And I remember the very first visit, my client saying, so what do hospice volunteers do? I said, well, what would you like me to do? He said, well, why don't we tell stories to each other? I'll tell a story and you'll listen, and then you'll tell me a story and I'll listen, and we'll go from there. And it turned out that one of the things that this gentleman loved most of all was being the docent of a synagogue that I was raised in that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright in a town called Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, a synagogue called Beth Shalom. And it's now a national monument. People come from all over the world, pre-COVID, to visit it, to learn about it. And my client, having spent, decades at this synagogue, was blessed and honored to be the docent. And we talked about this at great length. And the rabbi and the whole transition to a new building. And it was a great entry point, Jason, to begin a relationship that I treasure. I still treasure it. And it turned out that this man's wife, who became a bereaved spouse after 67 years, lost her youngest son in his mid-50s. Wow. So I started to counsel her as a bereavement person, and first as a bereaved spouse, and now as a bereaved parent. So it's a unique situation that, again, I treasure greatly. I'm so grateful for the connection that the hospital made. They put us together. The family made a request. They actually wanted someone of our faith to be with them, and they wanted a male and someone who knew how to have a conversation. So that's what I call what I do. I call myself a listener. And my animal name, as you know what that means, because I was born in August, has been Lion for 23 years. However, it began as Roaring Lion. And then I met a Native American who said, no, you're not Roaring Lion, you're Trusting Lion. And then I became Compassionate Lion. And 14 years ago, I became Listening Lion.
Interesting you say that. Excuse me. Some of our audience doesn't know, but I looked at the cup I had with me. I said, oh, I have a Mankind Project cup with me.
Yes.
You were in Mankind Project 1991. Wow.
No, I was there 1997.
Okay, wow.
So this is 23 years for me. And in Philadelphia, our community, I think, is 25 or 26 years old. So it was very new and early days in Philadelphia. We have over 2,000 men now.
Wow.
One of the other things I've been doing in the project is I so declared my eldership. I was 53 at the time. And knowing what I do in my work life, the leadership asked me to begin to visit families in the hospital, to go to funerals, to check in on people. And it's something that I've been doing and I still do. And again, it's part of my service work and what I love doing.
Is there a great match. Common theme? And when I would think that in your kind of counseling, bereavement means after passing, right? So
yes.
What do you find is very common among people that are in hospice that are themselves? Is the speaking and telling their story a major piece for people? What is a common theme, if there's such a thing?
Well, in a nutshell, I mean, this is, I have to generalize here, but I would say mostly what people want at the end is to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to be loved, and to be connected, feel connected to those around them. So if I can come in and be the conduit, for the family, the hospital, the hospice team, and part of what I say my job is to make sure that everybody on the hospice team, and I'm the only non-paid person, is to make sure that everyone's doing a good job. And if there's any concerns or any issues, I'm here to address them. And I'm here to look at what needs to be handled. But I find people want to be heard. And as soon as people begin to be heard, they begin to heal, even if it's at the end of their lives, if they've waited that long to share who they are and what their life has meant. It's also to feel deeply connected to those people around them that are caring for them, their caregivers. And the team, the hospice team, become part of that team. The nurse, the home health aide who's bathing someone, who may be coming every day of the week. And my job really is to stay connected to that family, not only to the person who's dying, the persons who are the primary caregivers, the extended family, friends. And I let the family know that I'm available 24/7. I mean, if you need someone to call at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's part of what I do. My phone is always on. I may be on the phone or asleep when the call comes, but I will be on the phone shortly. And many stories of having families not call 911, call me. It's not a 911 call, although they may feel it is. There's an urgency to the message they want to convey. And, after all these years, I'm not a rookie anymore. And that feels great, to know that I've seen so much, I've experienced so much, and I've learned so much as to how to walk into a house and bring calm and peace and sweetness. That's my goal every time I walk in the door, to let that family know that's my intention, and that's part of my mission. And that's another thing that came from the Mankind Project. And 23 years ago, as you know, we established a life mission, which you can change every day of the week if you want to. My mission is to co-create a world with greater loving kindness through healing myself and serving others. And I've never wanted to change that. It's very broad. For me, it's long, it's deep, it's meaningful, and it fits. And I know that I need to continue to do my work. So I've been in the equivalent of the Kihei Kings for 23 years, every other Wednesday night for 3 hours. Now, the last 6 months, we've been meeting, on Zoom, which is less than perfect. And it's better than not meeting at all, for sure. And we're figuring out a way to do our work, somehow, the touching and the closeness and the intimacy that we shared has shifted now when you're looking at a screen. And I look forward to facilitating. It's only a couple of times a year because there's 12 guys and we meet every other week. So I take my facilitation in the Mankind Project very seriously. I plan. And rather than, opening it up to what kind of work do people want to do tonight, I ask questions that are evocative, and if people really answer the questions, they're doing the work, because the work is about what matters most now. And that's my goal, to really bring it into the present moment. And what are you living with right now, because really that's all we've got is the present moment. And the more we can stay in that present moment, for me, it's really staying in my life, rather than bemoaning what's happened in the past or obsessing about the future, which hasn't come yet. And what do I have right now? And right now I have us, you and I. And I feel very blessed to be here with you.
When I hear that, I can see Ram Dass, and interesting you mentioned about Bodhi B here and the project he's doing here. Why don't you share about that? Because being here now, being in the present is very few words, but it really says it all. If we can be here now and be present with each other, the things in the past or the things in the future, what we have is right here now. And,
yeah. Well, you may recall that when you gave me his card in 2014, and you said to me, this is who you need to see next. And unfortunately, I was ready to go home the next morning or get myself to the airport. So I never did call or make contact with him, unfortunately. However, who I have been following is a man who I have deep respect and love for, Stephen Jenkinson. And he, among other things, has the Orphan Wisdom School in Canada. He's been touring the world. And his recent book, Die Wise, is a must read for anyone in the field, in my judgment. So being on Stephen's mailing list, I learned that in 2017, Bodhi and his center was going to put on this first international death doula training, and Stephen was going to be the keynote. And there were a number of his students there. There were 108 participants, 99 women and 9 men. The first night, Ram Dass made an appearance in his wheelchair, and 6 warrior brothers put him on the stage, and he invited each of the men up one by one and crowned us with paper crowns, gold paper crowns, and thanked us and blessed us for coming all this way and doing this work, and basically saying, real men are doulas, and this is a very precious time. So meeting Bodhi and seeing Stephen in the live, it was a transformative experience for me. It truly was. I met other men there that were from different cultures, different backgrounds, different hemispheres, and yet we began to talk, and our paths intersected in such incredible ways. It was really very, very inspiring. And at the end of the training, I went to the death store up in Haiku, and to spend some more time with Bodhi, and to see him in his place of business, quote unquote. And I said, I know I have found my community here. It's not that I don't have one in Philadelphia, but what exists on Maui and what exists in your realm and your sphere of influence has moved me deeply. And I went on to, give him, all these accolades about my connection and how great I felt about the experience. And his message was very clear and very direct. He said, so if all that's true, go home, pack, and come back. That was it. And I wish it was that easy. I have a life here that I've had now for 76 years, not always in Philadelphia. My daughter's here, my grandkids are here. My community of MKP brothers, my hospital that I've been connected to for 32 years. And yet there's a pull to be near Bodhi. So fast forward to 2018, and I'm finishing up my training in New York City, and there are 72 participants, 70 women and 2 men. And the joke was, Harry's the straight one. Okay, so you get some idea of who's doing this work. And of course, the keynote is Bodhi. He's coming from Maui to New York City, and we're in some hotel across from Penn Station in some kind of suites of whatever. And of course, everybody's all over him. All these women, they're all over him, and everybody wants a piece of Bodhi. And I had a gift for him. I also wanted to trap him and spend a few minutes with him, which I had to do in the men's room, because there was only one other person who was going in the men's room. And when I made sure that he wasn't around and I saw Bodhi head for the men's room, that's where I'm going to meet him. And that's where I'm going to get his full attention. And a relative of Phyllis's who lives in Finland, who's a silversmith, had made me a stick pin out of silver, a small stick pin with the skull on the top of it. And it was absolutely breathtaking. And I wanted to give it to Bodhi just as a piece of my connection, of my love for him, and to say, you know what, I haven't forgotten about you, and I really want to do this, So again, he looked at me, smiled, so pack and, come back, it's that simple, and then, so I actually, as far as the project, his project and Ram Dass's project, Ipuka, and the sanctuary, that really caught my attention. And I just was so moved by this. And as late as the middle of February, this year, I was writing letters to the community and to the doulas that I had studied with and other people on the list, trying to raise money, to buy this piece of land, these 10.5 acres up in Haiku. And then, of course, 3 weeks later, COVID hit and everything kind of imploded. And I've made a point of staying close to Bodhi. I love this man dearly. I love who he is, what he does, who he does it with, how he does it. And I truly have felt that I was with a kindred spirit of a very deep and profound level. And I thank you, Jason, for all that you do, but all that you have done, to point me in this direction. Because as I said to you privately, this has really changed the direction of my life, and I'm holding it. I'm still holding it. I've been accused of being the eternal optimist. And I remember spending 10 days with Joan Halifax at Upaya, this Zen center in Santa Fe. And when I called to register, she said, well, Mr. Neuman, we're very sorry, but we only have 29 beds and we're full. We've got a waiting list. I said, well, I really need to be there. And she's, well, we're full, what, how about maybe next year? I go, no, I need to be there this year. And I said, so you have a waiting list, right? How many people are on your waiting list? She said, we have 3 people on the waiting list. So I said, well, let me tell you what's going to happen because I'm ready to buy my ticket like in 12 minutes. I said, you're going to get a phone call from 2 of those 3 people. And basically, well, actually 2 of the people that are on the 29 list are going to cancel, okay, at the last minute. And then you're going to call the 2 people on the, of the 3 people on the waiting list, and only one of them is going to be able to say yes. So the 29th spot is mine. And sure enough, I went. That's what happened. And I remember this woman, as I pulled up in the parking lot, I sent her a little text message that I was there, and she's, I have to come out and see you. I want to meet the eternal optimist. How did you know this was going to happen? I said, I didn't. I just willed it, And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And my intention was pure and innocent, and I really wanted to do this. And again, another training, 10 days with Joan Halifax, with another transformational experience, And I've been very, very blessed with Stephen Levine's work, saw him in the live. Frank Ostaseski, who was the founder of Zen Hospice Project and the first Zen hospice in the country. I did a caring for the dying, compassionate care for the dying at Esalen Institute with him. And again, a week with him. These people are just guiding lights for me. I'm blown away by their commitment and their love and their brilliance and their compassion, their empathy. And they are my models, that I just look at and go, wow, if I could be, any part of who they are, in my world, I'm a happy camper.
I'm sure that in your world you are.
Well, thank you.
You're just full of such love. I mean, it overflows. You have also a wonderful partner, Phyllis Redmond.
I do. I'm very blessed.
You guys
Jason, let me tell you this story briefly. So 12 years ago, I get a phone call from the head elder of the Philly MKP community. And he says to me, this guy, Brian, died. And his funeral is 3 days from now. And it's in this place in Philadelphia. And we'd like you to show up and let the family know that you are representing the community, okay, as an elder. Now, where else can you be an elder at 53? But as I say, I've been an elder now for 23 years. So at this little tiny church, I can't find a place to park. The parking lot's full. I'm like 6 minutes late, and I walk into the church, and there's one seat in the middle of the church. I got to climb over people to get to the seat. And as I'm moving toward the empty seat, the seat behind the empty seat, I look at the person there, and I go, oh my God, I know this person. We went to high school together. Her name is Phyllis Redmond. Okay. So after the service, I turn around, who I haven't seen her in 30 years. I went to high school with her, and that's a whole other story, but I'll make it brief. I turn around and I say to her, it's me. What are you doing here? And she kind of like, well, I was about to ask you that question, And I said, well, I'll answer first. I'm in the Mankind Project. I'm an elder, and I was asked to be here. How about you? She goes, well, I'm in the Woman Within International, the sister organization to MKP. And the widow of this man sits in a circle with me. So it's like, wow, wow. And 11 years ago, I moved into her house. And the rest is history. And all I can say is we're good. We're good together. We're good for each other. We're good with each other. And we're living in a tiny dollhouse right now. And when we moved in here, I thought 1,100 square feet, on 2 floors, we're sure to kill each other. And the truth is that the opposite happened. We made a nest together with her stuff, my stuff, her kids. She's got 3 sons and 5 grandchildren, and my world. And our lives intersect with these 2 communities in such a beautiful way. We know so many people from these 2 communities that are a part of our lives. Phyllis has been sitting in a circle for 20 plus years with most of the same women that she went through with. And, in 2017, we, the 2 of us, came to Maui, and you and I had dinner that night, the first night in 2017, when she came to Maui to do the first Woman Within training on Maui up in that Y camp up in the jungle, the name I'm blocking on.
K&I.
K&I, yes, K&I, right.
That's where I was initiated 2017, actually.
Yeah.
I'm a lion too.
Yeah, so and I said to her when we heard that this was happening, I said, you have to do this. This is historic. And you have to be there. And of course, she wound up knowing a lot of the people there, and just women that had come from all over to do that first training. And it was awesome. And I don't know whether you were not at the graduation, but it was awesome. And I remember posting a picture of the 2 of us and just the gratitude that I felt for these 2 communities coming together in such a beautiful way. I mean, it just doesn't happen like that in our part of the northeast of the states. It just doesn't, and it happened there in such a beautiful way. There was such support by our community for their work, and to be part of that, to witness that, was just so cool. I was such a happy camper to be part of that, just to witness that, and there was ceremony and there was storytelling, and there was just this wonderful honoring of all the women that went through. It was a big deal, very big deal.
And in this day and age, it's really beautiful to see men being the best that they can be and women being the best that they can be and coming together. Such a great model for the way the world can be.
Absolutely. Indeed. Yes.
So during this time, I always am wondering, how did you get into it? I mean, you've been doing this and it seems like part of your life, you said 30 plus years. How did you get into that kind of work? It's
well, when my friends were becoming doctors, when my Jewish friends were becoming doctors and lawyers, I remember walking into my father's office and saying to him, Dad, I'm in a college that I don't want to be in. I'm doing something that I don't really want to do, which is what you want me to do, which is study business, because my father had a business. And what I really want to do, and what I've discovered at Long Island University in Brooklyn, is that I want to be an actor. And my life has been a transformation and a pilgrimage from being an actor to playing at kids, because we did children's theater and wrote plays, and I was in a company, and I spent time in New York City, I spent time in Chicago, and then I spent 2 years in Paris studying theater and mime and acrobatics with Marceau and his teacher and his friends. And what has happened in my life through a series of losses was I went from being an actor to being an activist. And 20 years ago, I was asked by my mentor at my hospital Her last wish was to create a grieving center for children. And my job was, I was hired to, I was a volunteer, but I was hired to find a grieving center that was also a teaching center. And I found the Dougie Center, obviously a center named after some kid called Douglas, in Portland, Oregon. I spent 3 days out there, and I fell in love with this place. And I basically hired these people on the spot. You know, my third day when I went to say goodbye, I hired them. And they came to our hospital in 2000 and taught 10 of us how to create a grieving center for kids. So we work with kids 5 to 25, all who have lost parents. If you're 10 years old and your dad died, you sit in a circle with 11 other boys and girls, 9, 10, and 11. So, by age, we group kids together. They meet and they come for 90 minutes, and they do what I call creative grief work. We use music, we use drama, we use writing, we use storytelling, and we use community. We basically need each other, and we let the kids know that, that we all need each other here. This is a process that we're going to do together as a group, as a community. So fast forward 20 years, it's our anniversary this year. We had planned a big party, a big event, but COVID, put a damper on that one. So it's on hold at the moment. But we've worked with 1,800 families in 20 years without 1 cent of fees. We were given a space by the hospital, and the rest is history. But to back up, there were 3 events in my life that really solidified my transition from actor to activist. The first was 61 years ago. My mother, may she rest in peace, had some issues that I won't go into, but what I got from a very early age was that my mother wasn't really able to be a mother or to be my mother. And she was very young, and she was married to my father. And yet what I needed to do was find someone who could be the woman and the mother that I wanted. And it turned out that the woman that I wanted for my mom was my best friend's mother. And what I loved about her was they didn't have a garage, so the bicycles were in the living room. There was always a fire in the fireplace. There were always chocolate chip cookies in the oven. New York Times magazine, New York Times newspapers, the New Yorker. But guess what? People talked to each other. People engaged with each other. And this was the family that I wanted to be in. And the dad of this family was the only person who ever referred to me as Heschel. And that was his endearment to me. His wife, who was the woman I wanted for my mother, long story short, died at the age of 42 with 3 kids. And I played hooky for 3 months during 9th grade until they realized I was absent. That's how much they missed me. And I sat at her bedside. The 3 kids went to school. The father went off to work. There was no hospice. She was alone all day, pretty much. And I would walk a couple miles to the house. I would look like I was, walking toward the bus, but I just kept on walking. And 3 months later, she died. And that was my initiation to sitting at the bedside, for sure. And it never left me. I didn't know what to do with it at the time. I was 14 years old. So fast forward to the mid-1980s, and a woman who I will describe as my sister from another mother, who's in her early 40s, also with 3 teenagers. And this is a woman who I met at a training, and we became siblings by pricking our thumbs and, becoming blood relatives. And when she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, from like 0 to stage 4, The hospital, the cancer hospital in Philadelphia, basically, when she asked the question about how much time she had, they handed her a metaphoric hourglass, and that hourglass was 11 months long, and that was ambitious. Okay, 11 months with stage 4, but that was with some surgery, chemo, radiation, the whole 9 yards. So she went through that, and also did number 1, 2, and 3 on her bucket list. And basically what I witnessed was a lot of her friends, most of her friends, were completely terrified. In those days, people didn't even say the word cancer. It was like if you're having AIDS, we're not going to talk about it. And maybe we'll call it the C Club, but basically nobody talked about it. And people were afraid that it was contagious. And her friends kind of disappeared. And that was totally devastating for her. However, that vacuum and that space was my entry point. And I began to spend every day with her, part of every day with her. And we just hung out. And we got even closer and closer and closer and closer. And I remember the day that I got the call from her husband to tell me that if I wanted to be with her at the time of her death, today was the day. He was a physician. He knew, had a lot of experience with this. And he was sort of her doc, as well as her husband, and said, today's the day. So that was a very intimate experience. And if you can believe this, this man, this husband, was a doc, but he was also a musician and a cabinet maker, and he built harpsichords. So I helped him build her coffin. We went to Heckinger's and bought pine, and we started by making the lid because the kids wanted to put, messages on the inside of the lid to their mother. And I vowed to her 3 children who were teenagers at the time, this is 34 years ago, 35 years ago, that I was going to change the direction of my life. And I was going to embrace this work called grief counseling. I was going to become a grief counselor. And I spent 7 years working on becoming a grief counselor, mainly in New York. But I made sure that I was with people who had been there, done that, and the Stephen Levines of this world and those type people who I had the honor and blessing to be near and to learn from. So that began this pilgrimage that I'm on. It's interesting today, the 26th of October, 2020, is the yahrzeit for my son who died on October 30th, 2006 in China. And my world completely imploded, exploded at the same time. 1 minute he was alive and the next minute he was dead. Living in Shanghai, had a great job, lived in a great apartment, had a Chinese girlfriend who he wanted to marry. Everything seemed to be, moving along in an incredible way. And he felt a freedom there. I can't really explain it because he was a big guy with, a red beard. His mother was Irish and Scots and English, and you'd never know that this kid had a Jewish father. But anyway, he looked like a Viking in Shanghai. So he kind of stood out, right? This was so shocking to me and so surreal that I didn't know how I'd ever survive. And, the hospital, the people that I know in this work, my friends, other family members, I remember my brother, my one sibling who met me at the door. I was in California at the time I got the news. And he said to me, as he opened the door with tears in his eyes, he said, I was a terrible uncle. That was his opening line. And I said to him, no, you weren't, Rich. You were an absent uncle because you lived in another state and you never saw him. You you can't be horrible if you never showed up or because of whatever reason, you know. But nobody really knew what to do with me. I mean, it's like, like, what would you do if this happened to somebody else? Well, it didn't matter what I was told or how I was told it. I was grieving, and I was beyond grieving. I was devastated. And truth be told, I had my time in the rabbit hole. You know, I really did. And I'm an actor. So I was pretending that I wasn't in as much pain, which was even more painful, you know. And then I began to do the work that I've encouraged others to do, which is, you see, if you don't deal with your grief will deal with you. And the body doesn't lie. And my body wasn't lying. My body was devastated. My entire being, every breath was a challenge. And I remember trying to explain to Aaron one day how important our relationship was. And I said, I can tell you all kinds of stories and give you all kinds of examples. I said, but you know when you'll know? When you have a son and you hold him in your arms, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I told him that of all the people on planet Earth, he was the person I loved the most. And he said, really? Well, what about Rachel, his sister? I said, she's my daughter. What about Mom? She's my wife. One son, one daughter, one wife. And there's lots of story around the things that I did and who I did them with. And in a nutshell, I found a woman that I had done training with in the early 70s, the Gestalt work that I did. And this particular woman was diagnosed at the age of 32 with ALS. This woman was at the top of her game. And she was told that she had a 10% chance of living 6 months to 2 years. She lived for 37 years, Jason. She lived till she was 70. She was the Stephen Hawking of the United States. And I've watched so many interviews with her. We got very, very close when I finally found her again, she and her husband and her sons. But the question that they were asked over and over again is, how did you do this? I mean, my God, teaching in a wheelchair, her tongue was atrophied. She was on the staff of Esalen Institute for 30 years, teaching in a wheelchair, a woman whose mind was crystal clear, whose body didn't work. And the answer was 2 words, sacred denial. Sacred denial. That's how she did it. And that failure was not an option. And they were convinced that they were going to have a life. I'll send you a piece that Phyllis wrote about Mariah and Ron. Mariah Fenton Gladys, she wrote a book called The Wounded Healer. And I got to work with her. And the essence of what happened with her is that she seems to have brought Gestalt, psychodrama, and music. She has synergized it in a way that is so unique and so beautiful with a community of people, so that if you're in a circle with her, there are 30 people in the circle, and everyone who's in the circle is part of the experience. Maybe playing roles in some kind of a family situation that you want to take another look at. And at some point, when I was asked to sit with her, she looks at the person she's working with and asks the same question, what's important now? And my answer was, I'm in a sea of grief. And she said, well, tell me more. And I started to talk about Aaron. And at a certain point, she said, is there someone in the room who could play Aaron? And 3 guys raised their arm, and there was a guy that looked like he could be his twin brother. And this guy, Joe. And I said, I want Joe to play Aaron. And so she put us at opposite ends of the room and started to, give us prompts. And it was clear that we didn't need prompts. And what little did I know that this guy, Joe, was estranged from his father. So I've lost my son, and he's basically lost his dad. His dad isn't dead, but he's estranged from his dad. And we're walking toward each other. And finally, we get within about 6 inches of each other, and we just stand there looking at each other. And almost simultaneously, we reach out and we grab each other. We move slowly toward each other, but with great intent and great love. And then we're in each other's arms, and the two of us simultaneously start to sob. And I probably sobbed for about 45 minutes. And all I can say to you, Jason, is that at the end of those 45 minutes, I've never sobbed anything like that. In fact, I told Mariah that I had two fears that's kept me from being, present with her in this moment. One was that if I let anyone see the pain I was in, I would start to cry, start to sob, and I would drown in my own tears. And the other piece is that if I let anybody know the pain I was in, I'd have a psychotic break. Well, neither of those two things happened, and I sobbed, and I could feel my heart open again, because my heart was shut down. I mean, truly shut down. And all the things that I loved and all the people that I loved meant nothing to me. I was in my sea of grief. And if I die tomorrow or I live another 50 years, Mariah, Fenton, Gladys saved me and gave me my heart back. And that's where I am right now. My job right now is to, the hell realm that we're all living in, the cloud of grief that we're all under. My goal is to keep my heart open every single day in whatever way I can, and to check in with my heart and to make sure that I'm totally present and my heart is open. I just received an email this morning from the hospital, more support calls to make, more support calls. And I can do it now with an open heart and an open hand. And really, my prayer to these families, these primary caregivers, is that to let them know that they're not alone, and that I'm here for them, and the hospital's here for them. The hospice team is there for them, and I'm the conduit. I'm the conduit between the family and the team and the hospital. And that's a huge honor. And I could never do that with a closed heart. I just couldn't. I couldn't even pretend to do it. So I don't have to pretend anything. All I have to do is just make the call and know that hopefully my voice will convey a caring and a love and an empathy that is really about my mission, which is about serving others and loving myself to begin with. Because if I don't love myself, who else can I love? So this is what Bodhi saw. This is what Bodhi intuited, and what he has made clear to me. At any time, you're welcome here. And I want you to remember that the last time I was on Maui, the very first night, I called you and we had dinner. All I remember is eating outside. It was fish tacos. That's what I remember. And I remember just how wonderful I felt just reconnecting with you, and my gratitude to you and everything that you stand for and everything that you're working toward, that I have deep, deep regard for, because we are brothers. There's no, and then when you took the training, it was like, oh my God, now we got that too. And then to learn that you're a lion, it's like, oh my goodness, no accident there, really, no accident.
Well, and my slant on lion is gentle and peaceful. You can have power, but you can be gentle and loving and peaceful with it, How does a king of a jungle be to be? So you've been a terrific guest. I'm looking at the time and realizing we've chewed up an hour. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
I could talk with you forever. I can tell you, I can see how a 180-minute session can happen.
Oh yeah.
If we have an audience out there, first of all, I'm sure that they might very well want to be in touch with you. Is there an easy way for that to happen? What do you recommend?
There's a couple ways. One is to call me, text me, email me, and you have my contact info. Now, I didn't know whether this interview or conversation was live, whether it's being filmed. Which one is it?
There's a button here that says record. So when we started and I did my little count in, from there till now, we're one continuous conversation. Yeah.
Okay. So was it live this morning? Could somebody actually watch this, or is it recorded and then will be retrieved at another time?
It's recorded and retrieved at another time.
Okay, beautiful, yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So feel free to offer my contact info to anyone who is in the death trade, anyone that is doing hospice work, bereavement work, working with kids.
Put up your email on the.
Yeah, I mean, I can only tell you that there was a boy in my circle for 3 years. He was 10 years old. His dad died in his arms. And when he came in the circle, he could barely speak. And when he left 3 years later, his mother said to him, John, we have to go. There's a waiting list for this age group. And he said, Mom, I don't ever want to leave Safe Harbor. And she said, John, why? And he said, because it's the only place that I feel normal. I saw this boy about 2 years ago. He's in his early 20s now. And he was with someone who I didn't know, and he gave me a big hug, which he wasn't allowed to do when we were in circle together. So his grandmother said to him, so who is this guy you just hugged? And he looks at his grandmother and says, you see this? He points to me. He goes, you see this guy? This guy helped me when my dad died. And there it is, offering, an open heart and a community of other kids and an invitation to share with each other and be in each other's lives, because people in our lives have died and we need each other. And that's my mantra. We need each other. And we certainly need each other now more than ever. So let anyone and everyone know how to find me, and I'm an open book.
Sure. Well, Harry Neuman, you have been a wonderful guest. I hope that you'll come visit with us again, and I hope you'll be here in Maui soon. We'd love to give you a hug, or when we can.
Yes. Many blessings. Thank you so much for this time.
You are very welcome. And everyone out there, it's been a pleasure having you. We'll see you on again here on the Neutral Zone. Be well.
Ciao. Be well.